Welcome at Lowlands Assessment Systems. I am Sjoerd and this is the third tutorial in our series about John Holland's 6 interest domains. Our tutorials are packed with information. Please feel free to use the pause button if you want to think things over and let it sink in for a while. And now for the main act, may I present the artistic domain. Artistic is one of John Holland's 6 areas of interest. Each domain is made up of a number of components, and in the case of artistic there are 2. Art and creativity. However, before we review these 2, let's take a sidestep. The artistic domain is a special case. Firstly, because there are lots of different ways people can do something with their artistic interests and skills. And secondly, because it's not easy to land a well-paid job based solely on artistic competencies. We must have an idea about the extent to which the score on the artistic domain has professional implications. Therefore, as a counselor, we should ask ourselves a few questions each time we see a high score in our client's profile. Is this outcome directly relevant to the career? Or does the A score primarily refer to a hobby? Because of this, we have to spend some time exploring the different ways in which people translate their artistic interests into actions. We distinguish 3 layers of involvement: doing it yourself, joining in, or belonging. And we take 2 perspectives: art as a professional activity and doing something with art as an amateur, as an enthusiast. Let's start with the professionals. In the center, of course, we have the core, doing it yourself. So here we find professional artists. Think of a painter as an example. The painter paints paintings. Surrounding the core, we find a circle of supporting professionals. We call this the facilitating inner ring. All kinds of professionals work here, all with a great affinity with art. But they are not artists themselves. They are suppliers who have an impact on the primary process. In our example, this could be the supplier of painting materials. Or the gallery owner who, together with the painter, makes a plan to exhibit the works. Or a physiotherapist who specializes in repetitive strain injuries in painters, dancers and musicians. The third layer we call the facilitating outer ring. This is where professionals work who do not have a direct impact on the primary artistic process. They have a completely different profession, but they combine their affinity for art and the fact they have some other competencies, thereby allowing them to do their thing in an artistic context. For example, our painter has a bookkeeper and a cleaner. They both like working for the painter. They do not have a job with an artistic component, but by working for the painter, some of the time they are working in a creative environment. There are lots of examples for this. Think of an insurer who specializes in valuing and insuring art, or think of the janitor at a music school. This facilitating outer ring is very important for career counselors, because there is much more work to be found here than in the core business, for which you need a lot of talent. So this outer ring provides us with an opportunity to lead clients to a job that brings some extra inspiration and added job satisfaction. Not through a job that is fundamentally artistic, but through fine-tuning the context. Now let's have a look at the 3 layers of engagement in a non-professional context. Again, the core is the artist, the doer, the creator. But in this context, the goal is just to do something you like to do. There are no professional ambitions and there is no financial pressure to perform. While we have a non-professional at the core, the facilitating inner ring often still does consist of professionals. Think of the material suppliers, but also think about teachers. Whether it's music, dance, drawing, web design, felting, sculpture, acting, pottery. If we want to get better at an art form, we surely discover that there are teachers for everything. Quite often these teachers are part-time artists. From a counselor's point of view, it's important to realize that in this facilitating inner ring there are jobs to be found. Real jobs for real people. In the non-professional context, we usually find unpaid enthusiasts in the facilitating outer ring. Think of all the parents who will pay for materials, buy or make ballet costumes, provide transportation, and of course consume their offspring's art with unconditional enthusiasm. So much for the sidestep, back to the main story. The first component focuses on identifying interests in the fundamental art forms. Art for art's sake. With art with a capital A, we actually mean art in the classical sense of the word. Art for art's sake. Art as an end in itself. There are several definitions and classifications of art. In the context of interest research and career counseling, we look primarily at the goal, and in this component, the art itself is the goal. The domain of the arts is vast. It includes at least literature, so prose, poetry, putting thoughts into writing, telling a story, fine arts, that's drawing, painting, graphics, sculpture, performing arts, theater, all forms of music and dance, and of course there are all sorts of combinations, crossover art forms and conceptual art. Art can be modern or classical, a bit more concrete or a bit more abstract. What matters is that art is the end in itself, the core business. The second component is much less lofty. It involves all forms of creativity that you encounter in everyday life. The table you work at was designed by someone, just as your phone, your chair and your teacup. Maybe you're going to do some creative cooking tonight. Or you are busy making some sketches of what your new tattoo will look like. Maybe your client wants to start their own nail salon. Or a cupcake store. Applied art forms are seen all around us. As I said before, of course, any kind of creativity is related to a whole collection of professions and activities. Take fashion, for example. You can love fashion as an amateur, as a consumer and as a fan. You could be flipping through magazines, go shopping with your friends, attend a fashion show, and you could buy fashion stuff. And as a professional, you could be part of the fashion industry. As a designer, as a manufacturer, as a maker, as an illustrator, as a photographer, as the photographer's sidekick, as a stylist, as a makeup artist, as a site scout, or as a model. Of course, this list is not complete and this example was only one of many sectors in the field of art and creativity. To give you an idea, we've put together an organized and perfectly structured list for you. In addition to all these examples of applied art, there's also a huge variety of pursuits that we summarize under the heading Homegrown Creativity. By this we mean everyday activity you primarily do for yourself, based on your interests, your background and your talents. This category ranges from doing needlework to carving wood, and from editing vacation videos to writing funny little poems. Of course, people can reach high levels of sophistication in their creative hobbies. But from a career counselor point of view, the main characteristic of this homegrown creativity category is that you don't do it in a professional context. So there is no must perform or must produce. Homegrown creativity is meant to be satisfying and fun, stress-free, you do it on your own terms and on your own level, there's no pressure to perform, and there are no commercial goals. Talking about goals, we're getting towards the end of this tutorial. We've looked at art as an end in itself. We've looked at professional and non-professional forms of creativity. And now we would like to conclude with 2 points of attention. The first one has to do with the realistic domain. Be aware that for creative activities with a strong artisanal character, so for instance pottery, basket weaving or felting, the Holland Code will be AR or RA due to the hands-on nature of these activities. To physically create something, you need some strength, and you, your hands and your workplace will get messy. These are things that are linked to the realistic domain. The second remark is that almost all people have some hobbies or activities in which they can express their creativity. Therefore, an average to above average score for the creativity component is perfectly normal. And that's it, the introduction to the artistic domain. You could continue to explore artistic by viewing the tutorial with artistic cases, or recuperate for a while with the introduction to the conventional domain. Thanks for watching and until the next time.